What if I told you that the ornamental shrub your landscaper installed last spring could result in a knock on your door from federal authorities? While you're watering your garden and pulling weeds, there are plants growing in backyards across America that carry fines reaching into the tens of thousands of dollars. Some of these plants were handed out free by government agencies. Others were bestsellers at garden centers for decades before anyone realized the damage they were causing. The reasons why these once beloved garden favorites are now forbidden will shock you. And here's what makes this truly alarming. Your local nursery might still be selling some of them right now. These aren't obscure species that only botanists would recognize. These are plants sitting in millions of American yards at this very moment, and their owners have no idea they're breaking the law. Let's count down from number 20 to the most surprising banned plant of all. Number 20, Scotch broom. Those cheerful yellow flowers lighting up roadsides every spring look like something from a European postcard. Scotch broom was brought to America by settlers who wanted a reminder of the countryside they left behind. The plant seemed perfect for difficult slopes and poor soils where nothing else would grow. Landscapers recommended it for erosion control, and highway departments planted it along road cuts throughout the Pacific Northwest. For decades, Scotch broom was considered a useful and attractive addition to the landscape, but Scotch broom had colonization on its mind. Each plant produces thousands of seeds that can remain viable in the soil for 50 years or more. The seeds require fire or disturbance to germinate, meaning every attempt to clear Scotch broom triggers a new wave of seedlings. It has invaded millions of acres across the western states, crowding out native plants and creating dense stands that fuel devastating wildfires. Oregon, Washington, and California have all banned its sale. Number 19, yellow flag iris. This stunning water iris with its bright golden blooms was the crown jewel of pond gardens for generations. Garden designers prized yellow flag iris for its dramatic vertical leaves and reliable spring flowers that brightened up wetland plantings. It seemed like the perfect choice for boggy areas where other ornamentals struggled. Water gardeners planted it extensively, never suspecting the havoc it would eventually cause. But yellow flag iris was quietly staging an invasion of American waterways. The plant spreads aggressively through both seeds and thick rhizomes that can survive being broken apart and washed downstream. It forms dense stands that crowd out native wetland plants essential for wildlife habitat. The roots actually alter water chemistry in ways that harm fish and amphibians. Number 18, porcelain berry. With its stunning multicolored berries ranging from turquoise to pink to purple, porcelain berry looked like living jewelry draped across garden arbors. This Asian vine was imported as an ornamental curiosity and quickly became a favorite for covering fences and pergolas. The berries were so beautiful that garden writers couldn't stop recommending it. Nurseries couldn't keep it in stock during planting season. What could possibly go wrong with such a gorgeous plant? Everything, as it turned out. Porcelain berry grows with terrifying speed, producing vines that can extend 20 feet in a single season. Birds devour the colorful berries and spread seeds throughout forests, where the vine smothers native trees and shrubs under impenetrable blankets of foliage. It has become one of the most aggressive invaders in the eastern United States. Several northeastern states have banned its sale and transport entirely. Number 17, the mimosa tree. Those fluffy pink powder puff flowers and delicate ferny leaves made the mimosa tree irresistible to generations of American gardeners. Children loved playing beneath its spreading canopy, and the sweet fragrance announced summer's arrival across the South. The mimosa grew quickly and flowered reliably even in poor soil and drought conditions. Real estate agents knew a mimosa in the front yard could help sell a house, but the mimosa tree was spreading far beyond the yards where it was planted. This tree produces thousands of seeds that remain viable for decades, and its ability to resprout from cut stumps makes it nearly impossible to eliminate. Mimosa has invaded roadsides, forest edges, and stream banks throughout the southeast, displacing native trees and disrupting ecosystems. Several southern states now classify it as invasive and discourage or prohibit new plantings. Number 16, Norway maple. This stately shade tree was planted on countless American streets and in millions of yards throughout the 20th century. Norway maple seemed ideal for urban environments because it tolerated pollution, compacted soil, and neglect that killed other trees. Its dense canopy provided welcome shade on hot summer days, and its fall color ranged from yellow to deep purple. City foresters couldn't plant Norway maples fast enough, But Norway maple was waging a quiet war against native forests. Its dense shade prevents anything from growing beneath it, including the seedlings of native trees. The roots produce chemicals that inhibit other plants, and its prolific seeds spread into nearby woodlands where Norway maple gradually replaces diverse native forests with sterile monocultures. Massachusetts and New Hampshire have banned its sale. Number 15. Russian olive. Here's another plant the government told Americans to grow and lived to regret it. Russian olive was promoted by agricultural agencies throughout the Great Plains as a windbreak tree and wildlife habitat plant. Its silvery foliage looked attractive. It survived brutal winters and searing summers, and its berries provided food for birds. Conservation programs distributed millions of seedlings to farmers who planted them in shelter belts across the prairie states. The trees seemed to deliver everything promised, but Russian olive escaped the windbreaks and began invading riparian areas along rivers and streams throughout the West. Its deep roots outcompete native cottonwoods and willows for water in arid environments where every drop counts. Colorado, New Mexico, and other western states have banned Russian olive sales, and massive removal efforts are underway along major river systems. Number 14. Oriental bittersweet. This vigorous vine with its attractive orange and red berries was a favorite for fall decorations and dried flower arrangements. Garden centers sold Oriental bittersweet as a carefree climber that would cover fences and trellises with minimal effort. Florists couldn't get enough of those colorful berry clusters for autumn wreaths and centerpieces. What they didn't mention was that Oriental bittersweet was strangling American forests. This vine climbs trees and gradually girdles them, cutting off the flow of nutrients until they die. Its weight can topple mature trees during storms. Birds spread the berries throughout woodlands, where the vine overwhelms native vegetation. Oriental bittersweet has invaded forests across the entire eastern half of the country. It's now banned or restricted in over 20 states. Number 13. Heavenly bamboo. Despite its name, heavenly bamboo isn't bamboo at all, and there's nothing heavenly about its impact on American wildlife. This Asian shrub with delicate compound leaves and bright red berry clusters became a landscaping staple in the South and Southwest. It tolerated shade, required little water once established, and provided year-round interest with its changing foliage colors. Developers planted it by the thousands in commercial landscapes. But heavenly bamboo's berries contain compounds that are toxic to birds. Cedar waxwings and other berry-eating birds have been found dead after gorging on the attractive red fruits. Beyond the toxicity concerns, heavenly bamboo has proven invasive in many areas. Several states have added it to invasive species watch lists, and some jurisdictions now restrict its sale and planting. Number 12. Butterfly bush. This one hurts gardeners who thought they were helping wildlife. Butterfly bush lives up to its name, attracting clouds of colorful butterflies to its fragrant flower spikes throughout summer. It became the centerpiece of butterfly gardens across America, recommended by every gardening magazine and wildlife organization. How could a plant that brings butterflies possibly be a problem? Here's the dark truth. Butterfly bush attracts adult butterflies but provides nothing for their caterpillars. It's essentially a nectar bar with no food for the next generation. Worse, butterfly bush spreads aggressively into natural areas, displacing native plants that actually support complete butterfly life cycles. Oregon banned the sale of butterfly bush entirely, and other states have implemented restrictions on non-sterile varieties. Number 11. Pampas grass. Those towering plumes of white or pink feathers became the signature landscaping statement of the 70s and 80s. Pampas grass made bold architectural statements in yards across the Sun Belt, and no California housing development seemed complete without it. The dramatic plumes were dried and used in interior decorating, appearing in countless living rooms and hotel lobbies. It seemed like the perfect low-maintenance ornamental for warm climates, but pampas grass turned out to be a fire waiting to happen. The dead leaves and plumes are extremely flammable, and pampas grass clumps have contributed to devastating wildfires across California. Beyond the fire risk, pampas grass has invaded coastal areas throughout the state, crowding out native plants. California now restricts its sale in many counties. Number 10. Giant reed. This massive grass can grow 20 feet tall in a single season, making it popular for creating quick privacy screens and tropical effects. Giant reed was also promoted for erosion control along riverbanks and was even investigated as a biofuel crop. Its rapid growth seemed like an asset, and its architectural presence made dramatic statements in large landscapes. But giant reed has become one of the most destructive invasive plants in the American Southwest. It consumes enormous quantities of water in arid regions where every gallon matters, outcompeting native riparian vegetation for this precious resource. Giant reed burns intensely during wildfires and resprouts quickly afterward, creating a cycle of increasingly severe fires. Multiple states have banned its sale and are spending millions on removal. Number 9. Brazilian pepper tree. With glossy green leaves and clusters of bright red berries, Brazilian pepper tree seemed perfect for Florida landscapes. It tolerated salt spray, grew quickly, and provided year-round color in a state where many plants struggled. Developers and homeowners planted it extensively throughout South Florida. The cheerful red berries earned it the nickname Florida holly. But Brazilian pepper tree was conquering Florida's natural areas with ruthless efficiency. It invades virtually every type of habitat, from coastal areas to the Everglades. Dense thickets displace native vegetation and provide poor habitat for wildlife. The sap causes skin irritation in many people, and the pollen triggers allergic reactions. Florida banned its sale decades ago, but it remains one of the most serious invasive threats in the state. Number 8. Chinese wisteria. Few sights are more romantic than wisteria cascading in purple waterfalls from an arbor or pergola. Chinese wisteria was imported in the 1800s and quickly became the darling of southern gardens, where it grew with almost frightening vigor. Historic homes featured massive wisteria vines that became beloved landmarks. The fragrance of wisteria in bloom announced spring throughout the South. But Chinese wisteria didn't stay on the arbors where it was planted. This aggressive vine climbs trees and can kill them under the crushing weight of its woody stems. It spreads through both seeds and underground runners, forming colonies that overwhelm native vegetation. Several states now encourage planting native wisteria species instead and discourage the Chinese variety. Number 7. Bush honeysuckle. The sweet fragrance of honeysuckle evokes childhood memories for millions of Americans who grew up sipping nectar from the tubular flowers. Asian bush honeysuckles were introduced as ornamentals and for wildlife habitat, promoted for their hardiness, fragrant flowers, and abundant berries. Conservation programs even distributed them for erosion control and wildlife plantings. But bush honeysuckle was transforming American forests into biological wastelands. These shrubs form dense thickets that shade out native wildflowers and tree seedlings. Their berries, while abundant, lack the nutrition that native berries provide, essentially offering junk food instead of sustenance wildlife needs. Bush honeysuckle has invaded millions of acres across the eastern and midwestern states. Most affected states have banned the sale of Asian bush honeysuckle species. Number 6. Common buckthorn. This thorny shrub was originally imported as a hedge plant, valued for its dense growth and ability to create impenetrable barriers. Common buckthorn seemed ideal for property boundaries and privacy screens, and it was widely planted throughout the upper Midwest and Northeast. Birds spread the abundant berries, but nobody worried because the shrub seemed well-behaved in cultivation. That perception proved dangerously wrong. Common buckthorn invaded forests with devastating efficiency, forming dense understories that prevent native trees from regenerating. It leafs out earlier in spring and holds its leaves later in fall than native plants, giving it a competitive advantage. Minnesota and Wisconsin have banned common buckthorn entirely. Number 5. Garlic mustard. This innocuous-looking herb with small white flowers was brought to America by European settlers who valued it as a cooking green and medicinal plant. Garlic mustard was grown in kitchen gardens and eventually escaped into the wild, where it seemed like just another harmless wildflower. Foragers still occasionally harvest the leaves for their mild garlic flavor, but garlic mustard has become one of the most destructive invasive plants in American forests. This seemingly harmless herb releases chemicals into the soil that destroy the beneficial fungi that native trees depend on for survival. It spreads aggressively through shaded forest understories, displacing native wildflowers that have lived in these ecosystems for thousands of years. Garlic mustard is now classified as a noxious weed in multiple states. Number 4. Japanese honeysuckle. This might be the most widespread invasive plant in America, and chances are good you've seen it smothering trees along roadsides and forest edges. Japanese honeysuckle was imported as an ornamental and erosion control plant. Its sweet fragrance and pretty flowers made it popular with gardeners, while its dense growth made it attractive for bank stabilization. It spread from coast to coast before anyone understood the consequences. Japanese honeysuckle is a strangler. It climbs trees, wrapping around trunks until it girdles them. Its dense mats shade out native vegetation beneath. The vine forms impenetrable thickets that fundamentally alter forest structure. Despite its ubiquity, Japanese honeysuckle is now banned or restricted in multiple states, though removing it from the millions of acres it has invaded seems nearly impossible. Number 3. Salt cedar, also called tamarisk. This feathery shrub with delicate pink flowers was imported from the Mediterranean region for erosion control and windbreaks in the arid Southwest. Salt cedar thrived in salty soils and extreme heat that killed other plants. It was widely planted along irrigation canals and riverbanks throughout the western states. The graceful foliage made it seem like a gift to water-starved landscapes, but salt cedar has become a water thief of staggering proportions. A single plant can consume hundreds of gallons of water per day, outcompeting native cottonwoods and willows. Salt cedar also increases soil salinity, creating conditions where native plants cannot survive. It has invaded virtually every river system in the Southwest. Massive federal and state programs are working to remove it. Number 2. Mile-a-minute vine. This thorny vine earned its alarming name by growing up to 6 inches per day under ideal conditions. Mile-a-minute vine arrived in Pennsylvania accidentally in the 1930s. It spread slowly at first, but has now exploded across the mid-Atlantic and southeastern states with devastating consequences. The vine scrambles over everything in its path, smothering trees under its dense foliage. The triangular leaves are edged with tiny hooks that help the vine climb and make it painful to remove. Mile-a-minute vine can completely cover mature trees in a single growing season. It's considered one of the most aggressive invasive vines in eastern North America, and all affected states have banned its sale and transport. Number 1. Peyote. This small, unassuming cactus growing wild in the deserts of South Texas looks nothing like the dangerous controlled substance that federal law declares it to be. Peyote has been used in religious ceremonies by Native American peoples for thousands of years, long before European settlers arrived. The cactus contains mescaline, a powerful hallucinogenic compound that produces intense spiritual experiences. For enrolled members of the Native American Church, peyote use is protected as a religious practice. But for everyone else, growing this slow-growing cactus is a serious federal crime, regardless of your intentions. Peyote takes a decade or more to mature in the wild, making it one of the slowest-growing cacti in existence. Yet possessing even a single plant without proper religious exemption can result in criminal charges. This ancient sacrament sits in a strange legal space, completely illegal for most Americans, yet protected as a fundamental religious right for others. These 20 plants prove that the line between garden treasure and forbidden flora can shift without warning. Some were promoted by the very government agencies that later banned them. Others went from bestsellers to outlaws as science revealed their true impact. The lesson is clear. That beautiful plant at your local nursery might end up on next year's banned list. If this opened your eyes to the hidden legal minefield in American gardens, hit that subscribe button and check out our next video about the secret history behind America's most controversial plants.